can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, Don, you might remember, I reckon maybe 2 years ago, we started to take up the cudgels, did we not, for I Cook Foods, who were rorted out of their privately owned business by the Victorian government, the Andrews Victorian government, who inserted their public preference community chef to it's Don just grappling with technology. Turn the phone off, Don. Anyhow, they rorted I Cook Foods out by making up crap, and they dishonestly and fraudulently stopped him from his business and took it over and inserted their own company that they wanted in it. And this was an assault on free enterprise, which has bedeviled this Victorian government, who are the most corrupt and dishonest and deceitful government probably other than the Biden administration going on over in the States at the minute. So this culminated. We started all this because we were pissed off with it. And so we've had Ian Cook in several times. And Ian, not only is he pissed off, but he's lost his livelihood and his business. And he is going to stand. He is standing currently against the current Premier in Mulgrave, with a view to unseating him. And I would suggest he has tremendous support. I don't know how the campaign's going, but I tell you what we'll do, Don. We will ask Ian Cook, because he's in the studio, and if you ever want to see an entrance, he arrived, suddenly we're in a room here doing the podcast, suddenly the sunlight just disappeared, and we looked out and there was this huge Pantechnicon.
Bus.
It's a Pantechnicon, Don, it's a bus, a big, large, huge bus. With
supporting small businesses on the side. What's the other one?
Yeah, see if you can speak into the microphone.
Caring about local issues.
See if you can speak into the microphone while you're doing it.
Well, I'm trying to read as well, and then corruption.
Righto. So,
and on the back of it, it's got honk if you
agree with, if you want to go. Oh, hang on, we're just making this up. We've got Ian Cook here.
I'm not making it up.
You are. You don't know what it says honk if, and then you couldn't work it out. And Ian knows what it says because he's here. Ian, that's probably the most ham-fisted introduction you've ever had. Welcome to You Cannot Be Serious Again. Tell us how tell us something.
Okay, thank you very much to you, Sam and Don. The campaign's going extremely well. By the way, what it says on the back of the bus is honk if you hate corruption.
Are you getting many honks?
Yep, it's just continuous every time we drive anywhere.
But are you just driving around certain areas or around the electorate you're standing in?
Well, I do a lot of work around the electorate, and my very good friend Paul Brady, who turns out had a bus licence, is our bus driver, and he takes me. So if I'm going to a shopping centre to campaign, I go in the bus.
And Paul is sitting the bus driver. Paul incidentally is a retired detective sergeant, and he's going to actually speak shortly about another matter that the Premier is currently involved in, another saga, another absolute fucking seriously. How this man has lasted the distance. Maybe he won't last the distance, but maybe he will. So tell me, Ian, you started the campaign because you have done your due diligence, and the corruption that this government is involved in on every level is extraordinary. And you decided, well, someone better stand up and hopefully the rest of the community, your community, the Mulgrave community, might say, well, enough is enough.
It's interesting you say that. Look, the thing that comes across to me, if I go into a shopping centre, if I go, whether it's a strip shopping centre or one of the mall shopping centres within the electorate, and there's two major ones, one being Brandon Park, the other one Waverley Gardens. Also the big Springvale market, right, which is predominantly Vietnamese.
Yeah.
And a fabulous market. I mean, if you ever want to go to a market and see fresh of everything, that's your place. The point about it is, as I walk through and talk to people, and when I'm in Springvale, I've got a very close friend who's Vietnamese. She translates for me for those that don't speak English as much. The recognition of of myself and what happened to my business and my employees is quite phenomenal. I've got to say, it's in the 70 to 80% of everyone that comes up to me. And I didn't know that before I started, but it has been incredibly heartening because it's that quintessential understanding and able to prove corruption that we can take into the electorate, and the electorate says, yes, we agree and we know, and we're going to vote for you.
What about the area, though, that you're in? It's a Labor strike. It's been rejigged. The boundaries have been rejigged. You're going
Gerrymandered.
Yes.
Well, it goes out to Dandenong or Keysborough, lower more Labor orientated, whereas those other shopping centres you mentioned are kind of more right wing. Would that be right?
Yeah, so you're right. It was changed. Now, we know that Daniel Andrews has installed almost every head of every important department to him.
Hang on, what do you...
So if you take the health department, you take...
answerable to him.
Answerable to him.
Direct line,
that's exactly right.
That's right.
So I don't trust any of that. And our experience shows we shouldn't, and we have clear proof of all of that. He's the gatekeeper. So... You're right. What they did was they took a big chunk of, the VEC took a big chunk of Wheelers Hill, which would have been more conservative votes.
Yes.
Now what they did was they inserted it down Springvale Road, and they pushed Westall Road. It became the new boundary out.
That's right.
What you've done is the increase has been predominantly Springvale, which means you've increased the population of Vietnamese voting, because that's the predominant ethnic group down there. Now, amongst Vietnamese, I have a really good standing. I mean, whenever I go around with Hung, my friend, they even those that struggle to this day with English, do you know how many of them know what happened to me? And a lot of them are small business and food shop owners. And I've been in and said, I've even left my phone number with someone and say, you have any problems with this council, because I know how corrupt it is, that's Dandenong Council, then give me a call, I'll come and help.
So the state government, the Labor state government, have gerrymandered the boundaries to their own political benefit.
Yeah, it looks that way. It looks like they've tried to. With a bit of luck, they've shot themselves in the foot, because the one thing that sent fear through the Vietnamese community in Springvale, and they've all told me this, is when he signed up to Belton Road. Because they all of a sudden said, hang on a sec, this is what we fled, and now you're signing up with the Communist Party?
That's right, China's Belton Road. They're on a march all over the world with the Belton Road philosophy.
But the federal legislation has put a stop to that, but there are a lot of them that see the infiltration of sympathetic Communist Party of China, people moving in.
How many other independents are standing in this electorate, or in this particular electorate?
So at the moment...
seat.
Yeah, so at the moment we're in what they call the nomination period. That finishes on the 12th. So we won't know the final ticket until the 12th, and then they'll do the ballot. At the moment, I believe there's 7. You've got Labor and the Greens.
Separately or together?
No, there's seven people standing for the lower house seat of Mulgrave, which is the one. So you've got Andrews for Labor, you've got a Greens candidate, I think we've got a DLP candidate, there's a Liberal candidate, there's the Freedom Party candidate, and then there's myself. That's 6. Have I got to 6? I think I've got to 6. I was reading one on the way in. There's a comedian, his name is Howard X, and according to Twitter, he has put himself up as well, and he's standing as the North Korean candidate, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il. I think that's how it's all said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing that as
Isn't there another independent, the hairdresser?
That's the Liberal guy. That's
he's now Liberal.
He's the Liberal, yeah.
I thought he was standing as an
There's also another guy called, I think he calls himself Doc something. He's another independent, so he's the 7th one. But he's not...
Are you encouraged? Because Andrews, I think, has got, 62 or something in the 60% vote in that electorate?
No. So my understanding is the highest vote he's ever had, in a primary vote in the electorate, is 56%. And that was 2018. In the 2014 election, he relied on the Greens to get over the line. The Greens vote is dropping in the electorate because people are just sick of increased power bills and the things that happen if you follow the Greens ideology, which is a little bit too out there. I mean, there are sensible things you can do with the environment. Unfortunately, the Greens are not sensible.
So, Ian, you said you've been into shopping centres, I think. Traditionally, shopping centre management doesn't allow political discourse in there because it tends to polarise their potential customers. Have you been welcomed into the shopping centres?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, when we first went to Brandon Park, they said, no, you can't because we're apolitical. And then there was a change of heart at senior management or ownership level, and they came back and said, yes. So we are the only...
Groundbreakers.
Yeah, we're the only ones who've ever done campaigning in there. Can I make a point about that, though? The difference between us and everybody else is we're not going in with some political ideology from right or left. We are going in purely on the basis of talking to people about what's right and wrong and what we have to do this election. This is quite a different election to anything else ever. And when we've spoken to people, we say to them, particularly when guys come up to me and say, I've always voted Labor, but after what they did to you, I'm not going to vote anymore. I say, please take a personal message back to all your friends who otherwise would have voted Labor, and that message is this: I'm not having a crack at Labor values. Traditional Labor values are just Australian values, right? Dan Andrews does not have those values. He is corrupting the Labor Party. He will destroy the Labor Party. We need strong government and opposition to keep our democracy healthy. And at the moment, we don't have that. We have to get rid of this guy.
Can you see, it's a hypothetical and work in your favour, can you see Labor winning the election and Andrews losing his seat?
Yeah, there's look, anything is possible, Don, and I have people going through all the different scenarios. Can I tell anyone listening to this, there is one thing that I want to do, and that is literally, I want to take every ounce of effort that I have to take this fight up to him, to do the best I can to unseat him. If it turns out that I get enough votes and they go to another candidate because of our preferential system, as long as he doesn't get in, that will be a win for me, right? This is about the health of democracy in Victoria. It's not even just about I Cook Foods anymore.
So
it's bigger than that.
Besides the perceived public disgrace of the government, and as far as the red shirts saga went and IBAC investigation and not answering questions, the Premier has been bedevilled by some controversy on a personal level. First of all, I don't know where there's smoke, there seems to be fire. This keeps going on about the accident he had, and he was off for 6 months when he fell down 2 stairs and almost killed himself. There seems to be a lot of doubt, and we're not suggesting at all that we're just saying there's a lot of doubt as to the veracity of that story.
So what happens is, as people come forward, and this is the thing, after this period of time and after all the wrongdoing of this man, as people come forward and say, you know what, I actually know what happened, here's the truth, whatever, and you have to put that out there. The thing about newspapers, when we found this, they will not run a story unless it's been through their legal department. So they're not going to run anything where someone can come back and sue them. So the stuff that we've seen recently, if I separate the two stories for you, Sam, you've got one of the falling down the stairs. All the stories about that have been allegedly, etc. So we'll park that. The other story that came out was the one about the car accident and the young man. And you know what? I read all of that, and it just shows the most incredible, when you listen to what Andrew said about it, and then you now look at the leaked photos that were taken by Victoria Police that ended up on the front page of the Herald Sun when was it?
Yesterday.
2 days? Yesterday, day before, yep. You look at that and it shows the contradiction, the lie that is Daniel Andrews, right?
It's an interesting scenario because I live in that community. It's CFA, basically look after the fire brigade, and those guys talk amongst one another. And 2 years ago I was told about this, but a little bit further, and I wondered, and this is conspiracy again, about what hold Peter Marshall had over Daniel Andrews in the firefighters union. And apparently the first respondents were from the so I'm told, could be corrected, from Rosebud, which is full-time CFA employees.
Okay.
So they would come maybe under the control of a union.
Now, just before we, not suggesting Peter. I know Peter Marshall. I've had dinner with Peter Marshall. He's a very nice man. Just before we suggest anything untoward about Peter Marshall, we're not doing that at all. But what I might like to do, Don, is seeing as he's sitting here, this is retired Detective Sergeant Paul Brady. Paul, just from your experience, have the protocols of a car accident which turned out to be a pretty serious injury to the lad who came forward and said wasn't quite as was reported. Have the protocols, in your opinion, been followed in this before we start to before we start to devalue what anyone else has said?
It appears not, Sam. In fact, the whole thing seems quite suspicious. And while I have the opportunity, I don't want to lay any blame against the junior members, because this was such a serious accident where
The junior police members.
Yeah, junior police members. Yeah. So this was such a serious accident where the injuries were quite serious. In fact, they were life-threatening. So in those circumstances, the accident scene should have been taken charge immediately by a sergeant or above. That's the first thing. The scene should have been locked down. The witnesses should have been isolated and all passengers and drivers separated. All occupants of the vehicle should have been submitted to preliminary breath tests. In the case of a death or impending death, the Major Collision Investigation Unit must have been notified to attend and the scene preserved.
So none of this happened?
Absolutely. From what I read in the Herald Sun, none of that happened.
So to Don's point about the how would the firefighters be, Johnny on the spot, be the first people there? How would that happen? Because someone rang...
Triple O?
Yeah, I've got no idea, Sam. I can't answer that. But in relation to the damaged vehicle, should have been photographed in situ.
In what?
In situ, in situation, as it was found.
But it was.
And not moved. And not moved.
At the scene.
And not moved at the scene.
So that photograph that appeared in the paper wasn't at the scene?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what the procedure is. The procedure is a vehicle and the scene is photographed as it is before anything's moved or touched.
So he said, Andrew said that the boy T-boned him in the side, but it turned out that the damage was on the front of the car, which means someone drove into the boy. Well, that's what the boy's saying, isn't it? Or that's what the photos show.
Well, that's what the evidence is showing.
Yes, the evidence shows that. But this is just another. Yeah, so there's just another.
There's just one other important matter. That vehicle should have been isolated, put on the back of a tray truck, and it would have been taken to Forensic Science Laboratory for further examination.
So,
now, if you just remember, at the time, they thought that this young bloke was going to die, and he was airlifted from the scene. So you're dealing with a very serious accident.
Why has it come out? I'll ask both. Maybe both of you might have an opinion. Why has it come out now? And it's been a concerted effort run by the Herald Sun organisation. Friday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, on the accident and also the back injury incurred whilst down on the peninsula. Why is it happening now? Why hasn't it come to light before?
So we probably should separate the two things there. So the back injury is to do with the steps and all the rumours everyone's heard, all the stories about that. I'm not sure that anyone has compelling evidence for it. So that, if you like, is still in its rumour stage, even though I know there was an article I read too that sort of questioned a lot of things. I think the questioning comes because when you have stories like the accident come forward and this boy comes out and tells his story, and the reason that's happened now, it's actually, from what I understand, not even because of the election, it was that this boy's life was damaged. He was forced apparently or coerced or something, according to the Herald Sun, into signing an agreement to say he wouldn't talk about the accident. And now he has lawyers that are saying, well, hang on a sec, you can talk about it, is my understanding.
So you're saying it's coincidence that it comes out just now at the opening of the election or the start of the election?
Yeah, I don't think... Look, let's put it this way, Don. If it was your son and this accident had happened and just almost destroyed his life, he lost 90% of his spleen, he's in hospital, I'm guessing he would have been in a critical care unit, etc. If, with the passage of time, all of a sudden you find that someone's lied about the accident, and that's what he says in that story.
I would have treated it completely different, so I don't think we can compare, because I would have gone heavier before now.
Yeah, I think, no, if you read the story, apparently the father tried to, but was squashed, and he didn't get the information he needed. You know, investigative journalists do their work, and they do their work slowly and methodically. That story, I promise you, wouldn't have come... that story would not have suddenly come up. Those guys would have been working on that surely for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what? And the thing is, if you believe in karma, you believe in faith, you believe in God, whichever belief system you have, I believe sooner or later, when you do bad stuff all the time, it will blow up in your face.
So maybe the right-wing organisations, probably like the Herald Sun as opposed to the Age, who slant a little to the left, a lot to the left, and the ABC, of course. Maybe the people who are bringing all this up don't think it's a very prestigious climate or healthy state to live in when the custodians who are running the state are so corrupt and so dishonest, and maybe it doesn't bode well for our reputation, which has been trashed over the COVID debacle for 2 years overseas and even locally. Maybe people have said this is not the sort of government you want. I know that's easy to say because the opposition will say on the contrary, this is a fantastic government, but maybe people have realised this is an unworthy government to have representing you.
So I'm going to say two things here about this. First of all, let's think about this accident. I'm a father, and I look at those photos of that young lad and I say to myself, and by the way, I was in a very serious accident once with my family and my children in the car when they were young, where a car clipped the back of our car, a whole lot of circumstances, but we stopped. The other car ended up in a culvert on the other side of the road. I jumped out of the car. I saw our petrol tank had been ripped in half and fuel was bleeding out. I got the kids away with my wife up a good distance away. Then I went straight over to help the guy in the car that had crashed over the other side of the road. Now, if you read that story, the young man says all he remembers was that the Andrews were arguing and a third-party woman came and helped him. So I say this looks to me like Daniel Andrews didn't act the way I think he should have acted. Daniel Andrews looked at that boy and saw a political problem.
Oh, that's a big call.
No, that'd be absolutely right, Don. If that would be right, wouldn't it? You'd think, gee, this is not looking too good for whatever reason.
So in a minute of...
we better batten down the hatches and go into survival mode.
I find that hard to...
But hang on, I'd have gone over and helped the boy
That's
straight away.
That's right, but I find that hard to believe. I don't think anyone... I certainly wouldn't... I suppose you judge other people by your own standards, but I certainly find that hard to believe. I think you should go and help that fellow.
Of course, exactly, that should have happened. But remember, there was that when you say this string of articles, these reporters, journalists, have gone out and spoken to the people that were involved. So the lady that was followed behind the Andrews car, she stopped, she jumped out, she shaded the kid because it was a hot day on a tar surface. He was obviously incredibly badly injured. He was in incredible pain, according to the story. And if you look at what they're reporting as his injuries, you understand why. And she said, at no stage did Andrews or his wife help.
So Ian,
on a hot road.
Tell me this. What realistic chance have you got of unseating the Premier? Have you had a little... joined forces with any of the other people standing in the interest of just trying to unseat the Premier? or are you all just rowing your own boat?
No.
And if you don't succeed, then what happens?
Okay,
you
so
just continue your political campaign, or what do you do?
So just to
get
through all those bits in a row. First of all, yes, we are talking to the other candidates, and we will work out who's who when we get to the 12th, because at the 12th we'll know exactly who is standing, who the nominators are nominated.
This is with regard to your preferences.
Yes, and then we will discuss preferences once we know who they all are, because we need to know if we put someone at a particular point, we want to know that their vote is going away from Andrews, apart from that. So that is number one. The other thing to say, talking about chances. So with the help of Victorians, we will take a really good fight up to this guy. We've got a lot of people volunteered. A lot of people are saying they want to support us. We know that Daniel Andrews can't show his face in the electorate easily.
Why?
Because every time he turns up anywhere, someone will say yell at him. So the only time he'll turn up, just to give you an idea, is he announced the Veterans Card. He did it at 8:30 on a Sunday morning in front of Noble Park RSL. Now, at the time he was doing that, I was driving down Princess Highway to go to my office because we were about to start our day of campaigning and getting ready for it. There was nobody on the roads. And I know exactly where that RSL is, and there would have been no one there. So he turns up when no one's there to make sure no one yells anything nasty, like what happened to him in Caulfield and that sort of thing. So he can't do that. What he can do, though, is he can outspend us, and that's what he's doing. He will outspend me 10-1.
How can he outspend you? You've got the same electoral or budget.
No, that's not true, Don.
Why?
Because he changed the Electoral Act. So I can only receive, so if you want to give me a donation up to $1,079, that's anonymous. You cannot exceed giving me $4,320 as a single donation. Now, I've had big donors say to me, how do I give you $100,000 to help you, Ian? I say, you can't. And we have to be squeaky clean.
Hang on, so what, but hang on, the Labor Party?
That's the Labor Party.
And the Liberal Party, I suppose?
They are different parties. If you have someone who is an affiliate of the party, who has voting rights in the party, then the rules don't apply. You can give as much money as you like.
What?
Yeah, which means, let's talk about the Labor Party. The Labor Party has what? Oh, the unions are affiliates. Okay, do they have voting rights? Yes, they do. So they can plough any amount of money in. He can do that, and he also has control of the public purse. And as we know from the Auditor General, and the red shirts, he's quite happy to take public money and spend it on his campaign. Nothing will stop Andrews. He sees it as his. He sees the government of Victoria as his, as he owns it.
And that would be highlighted by the fact that he's contributed $15 million of our money, Don, to sponsoring Netball Australia, and $15 million to create some new dog parks. Would there be something else you could spend your money on, or $15 million on, than creating new dog parks?
Some of the promises that have been made...
It's just pork-barreling nonsense.
They're just insulting.
That's insulting.
It's insulting to we as electorate.
Yeah, but can I also say, at the last election, he promised the Retired Police Veterans Association $400,000 if they supported him. They didn't get it. He promised certain things.
So because they didn't support him?
No, they did apparently.
They did, and they still didn't get the money?
They didn't get the money. In 2014, he promised the Chinese community down in Springvale that they would get a dedicated aged care facility specifically for elderly Chinese. Never came.
Well, he's doing something with the Indian community now.
Yeah.
And I believe this also, when I saw this, this promotes racism within a community. Why should one community get money whereas another doesn't?
Correct. It needs to be fair. Just by the way, if you're hucking back, if you wanted to look it up, Section 218 of the Electoral Act, it covers what I was just telling you. So that people.
Can I ask you one other? So obviously your mind's really on this election, which is terrific. What's happening with your court case? Because I thought it was going to come to a head.
The I Cook Foods one.
I Cook Foods back in March of this year. I thought that's when you would have your day in court.
Yeah, so the people of Victoria need to know, and this is a very worrying fact, that there is no longer a separation between the judiciary, the parliament and the police force, and we have compelling...
Hang on, what do you mean by that?
Well, because all the decisions that are being made, I'm told by leading barristers, are basically political decisions. So we had a registrar sit on a decision for 4.5 months, literally a decision just for an amendment to a statement of claim, and that's now been supported by the Supreme Court. I can tell you today I have absolutely no faith in the Supreme Court of Victoria, and it saddens me because I literally used to believe that our Westminster system is what would protect all of us. And
so when do you think this will come to light, Ian? I mean, I said it was back in March. You led me to believe that. When will it come to light? When will you have your day in court?
I don't know. That has
really?
Yeah. We there is a directions hearing today, and they may lay down a date. Basically, I've been told by my legal team the game plan is just to hammer us with every mechanism they can to send me broke. That's all they want to do. Just completely outspend us so that we get to a point where there's just no money there to do anymore. And I can tell you, it's been 3 years and $1 million already, so sooner or later it will run out. And when we get to that, we will do our damnedest to find another way, because I don't intend giving up.
So you are, I think you're saying that the separation of powers between the police and the government just don't exist. They completely are at the behest and whim of the Victorian government. The police are now directed and have relinquished their responsibility to what is fair and reasonable.
Yeah, can I tell you, Sam? We have a subpoena. We had a subpoena in on Victoria Police to hand documents over. By the way, documents that we also know they have, and we have proof they have them, and they're not handing them over.
Why?
They're saying that they're just saying that we are what they refer to as a fishing expedition, and they have no relevance. Therefore, they're not going to hand them over. So I'm now having to spend more money to sue the Chief Commissioner of Police for contempt.
Yep.
Now, we will go through the motions of what we have to do to hold people to account, but every time we do it, we're being slapped down by the system, and that's what's wrong.
They're calling you, in effect, vexatious litigants, that you just keep pushing and pushing when you have no real claim or no real responsibility to ask for anything. And that's, you thought that, was it Shane Patton, or who was it when he came in, might take this to its logic?
Yeah, came in with a reputation, but I think that he's not what he's...
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Don.
Because he's under the contractual obligations of his employment. No, we shouldn't say that. The department is under the contractual obligations of the government, who determine their terms and conditions.
Yes, they're installed. So the head of the police is installed by the government of the day on 5-year contracts, which that in itself gives you a conflict of interest straight away. So if I get elected, I will put forward a private members bill, and I will move heaven and earth on things like your podcast, through the media, whatever, to have a private members bill put up that says the Chief Commissioner of Police has to be appointed by a joint sitting of both Houses of Parliament with a 75% majority. So that the Victorian police head holds no allegiance to anyone. If we don't start cleaning it up and doing this, our children are at risk.
One thing that fascinates me out of this election, and maybe you're becoming more political now, I do not understand why there have been so many senior ministers resign or not contest the next election in the Labor Party. I haven't heard of one of these people voicing why they're resigning. Now, to me, looking at it, they are junior ministers. There's very, very senior ministers. So Andrews will be telling these junior members what to do. And the only reason these people who are not contesting haven't come out and spoken is that they're looking for a job. And the job will come from the Labor Party, because there's no more pensions as there was in the past for retiring politicians. So again, I believe it's corrupt. We're not being enlightened as to what is actually happening in Victoria.
And hasn't Adam Samurak, is he joined
The DLP.
Bernie Finn's party? Is that
apparently,
Bernie Finn's?
yes, so we're told. Yeah.
So he might be about to let go publicly what he thinks has been going on, Don.
Yeah, well,
maybe.
basically, though, when you look at it, there's been a rout of the right wing of the Labor Party. So
Are they right, those ministers?
most of the ones that have gone were all members of the right faction.
Moderates.
Yeah, so what you've got
right?
left is left. Yeah, what you've got is just the left, or
Well, they're junior ministers, aren't they?
yeah, and they rely on what is the patronage of Andrews to keep their job.
Exactly.
And so they'll do as they're told.
Exactly.
And then the moderates that were in the party that would have upheld the traditional values of the party and would have, as I say, moderated Andrews to a degree, they're gone.
It's very similar to what's happening in the States at the minute, and as we speak, they will be about to get their comeuppance, the Biden government, because this is exactly what's happening over in the States, and they're about to be tossed out big time because the electorate has had enough of the public government, the public purse running all the ridiculous agendas that they have, and not worrying about the things that people who live in the community worry about, that is fuel prices and bloody inflation and all, and they just run the thing into the ground because they are parochial agenda seekers. Now, Paul Brady, have you got anything else to say about what's going on, being a custodian of the law at one stage? What do you reckon, where are we headed with all this? Is this finished, this accident investigation, or is that just going to just peter out, do you reckon?
Well, it really depends. At the moment, it's obviously political. So
it's legal, probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too.
So what they'll try and do is bury it, I'd imagine. But if we get some truth back into the system, I could see some.
You couldn't bury this the way these photos have come out now, Paul, could you?
I wouldn't put anything past what's happened so far. It seems to me that anything's possible with this mob. But the thing about it is, these are very serious matters. We're looking at indictable offences, so there's no statute of limitations. So anyone who's covered up or behaved criminally in the long term still might have a problem.
Now, listen, Paul, on a side note, I'd be worried about your future because I see that you're driving this big white bus. I believe Andrews has got a big red bus. Do you think there could be a face-off in Springvale Road somewhere?
No, I think
like two bulls coming together.
No, we'll just make sure we don't T-bone him.
Yours seems to, if he's got a bigger bus than the one that's out the front of this.
Well, it is. He's got a big red one.
No, but it wouldn't be bigger than that. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a full-size coach.
It's a full-size coach, Don. And now, Don, I don't know if we can go any further with this. We, as I say, we haven't just jumped onto this. We've been on this for a couple of years because we think he's been roundly done out of business, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. So, if you want to support Ian Cook in his bid to unseat the Premier in the electorate of Mulgrave, you can go to, this is on the website, isn't it? On the website, iancook. All one word, com.au. iancook.com.au. Did I say that correctly? iancook.com.au.
Could I ask one final question?
Sure.
Ian, have you got many people or volunteers coming from other electorates and helping you in your electorate?
Yeah, I tell you what is amazing. There's a lot of people in the electorate helping.
In the electorate
helping, and we have people from across Melbourne and country Victoria.
Really?
I've got one group are sending 2 busloads down for election day of volunteers to help campaign,
Joking.
last minute campaigning, handing out how to vote cards. There is across Victoria, there has been just a groundswell of support, and it's an emotional outpouring of saying, we know what we have to do, we know we have to get rid of him, we just want to help any way we can. So whether it's and remember, because of the election laws, what were changed, you can't give big donations, which means we're relying on literally small donations. And can I tell everyone, first of all, thank you, Sam, for doing that, but it doesn't matter if it's $10.
iancook.com.au.
Correct.
If you want to support you.
Correct.
You're allowed to donate money through that, are you?
Yes, you can.
Oh,
as long as they do it under the limit. So if you don't want your name on it, then you make it under the $1,000 limit. But can I tell everyone out there, it is just amazing. If enough people give a small amount, there is so much more we can do.
So, Ian, do you have any danger that the vote will be corrupted, that no matter how many votes you get, that they'll find a way that some of them won't be counted, which is what the great danger is happening. I keep repeating about in America, but if you want to see what's going on over there.
I think, so America, I haven't been following it as closely. Obviously, I've been preoccupied with what I'm doing. But the Americans do have an electronic voting system. We don't. We have a completely manual system. So, for everyone out there, I was also worked as a returning officer years and years ago in Burwood was the electorate then, but basically because we have a paper system and someone has their name ticked off, the vote goes, it then goes into a box. The box has a seal, there's a number on the box, there's a number on the seal. Those are not opened without the scrutineers in place. So there are checks and balances. I have had so many people come to me and say, we are worried they are going to corrupt it. We are worried that, through the back door a box full of votes will come. If that were to happen, it would be very difficult to do because you'd have to match up the numbers. You can't have an electorate with 40,000 voters and then suddenly count 50,000 votes. That's not going to happen. We have had so many people who are either have done it or are very detailed people who've offered to be scrutineers. Anybody else, by the way, that goes to the website, if you think you would like to be one of our scrutineers, we're taking as many as possible because there are going to be minimum 20 booths that we have to be all over on election day, and we would like at least three scrutineers on each one. Plus, a lot of our volunteers are going to be out handing out how to vote cards. The more people that we get on board to help us right up to these final crucial weeks, the more chance we have of knocking him off his perch.
Well, Ian Cook and Paul Brady, thank you very much for coming in. The man with the bus who is trying to unseat the Premier out in the electorate of Mulgrave, thank you very much for coming and updating us on all matters political, Don. Anything else? That's it?
No, my best wishes and good luck.